Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'll be showing you guys how to calculate, how to cut, as well as how to sew a peplum using crinoline. So if that is something you're interested in, do keep on watching. Okay, so I have my main fabric as well as my lining fabric laid out here. Then I have horsehair crinoline braid, which is this crinoline is 3 inches wide, but I think it comes in smaller widths. Yeah, it does. Then I have my measuring tape, my scissors, my pen, a straight ruler, and I have fusible collar stay just to give the flare a little bit more stability. So I have gum stay or collar stay there. Then I have a roll of paper on which I'll be making the illustration for the flare. To start off, I'll be showing you guys how to calculate for your flare radius just so you don't waste so much fabric. I think this took me a lot of time to actually figure out on my own, so I'm sharing it with you guys just because I love you guys so much. Okay, so I noticed that when you want to like sew flare and you don't actually calculate for the radius, you end up wasting so much fabric, and that is just a waste, so today we're making the 1440 degree flare. So one full circle is 360 degrees, and since we're making 1140, I'll be dividing that by 360 to get the number of panels that we'll be needing to make that number of or that degree of flare. So when I divide 1440 by 360, it gives me 4. That means we'll be making 4 individual panels of 360 degrees. 4 individual panels of 360 degrees. So my waist circumference is 32 inches. Okay, so since I'm making 4 panels, I'll be dividing my waist circumference by 4, and when I divide by 4, it gives me 8. So my new waist circumference is 8 inches. That means each panel should be 8 inches in circumference. Yes, does that make sense? I hope you guys understand. So each panel should be 8 inches in circumference. My waist, I cannot be using my full waist circumference for this. Okay, so when I add 8 inches into 4 places to give me 32, so that means it's correct. So next we'll be calculating for the radius for each panel. So to do this, we'll be using the mathematical formulas, which is circumference equals to 2 pi radius, where my circumference is 8 inches and pi is equals to 3.14. This is a standard figure. Anywhere you see pi, just put 3.14. That is the standard figure. Okay, so yeah, then we'll be solving for the radius, and I'm just going to use a question mark to indicate that that point or that figure is unknown. Okay, so next up, I'll be writing down that formula again, which is circumference, anyway. C stands for circumference, okay, equals to 2 pi r, where arrow stands for radius. Okay, so what I'll be doing, I'll be dividing both sides by 2 pi just to get the figure of the figure for the radius. So when I divide both sides by 2 pi, I'm going to cross out the 2 pi that is on the upper part of the second formula. Then it gives me r equals to c over 2 pi. Then I'm just going to impute those figures. 8 over 2 times 3.14. Remember that pi is 3.14, and the 2 that I'm using is already in the mathematical formula, so that's where I'm getting the 2 from. Okay, so it is 8 over 2 times 3.14. So when I work that down, it will be 8 over 6.28. If you multiply 3.14 by 2, it will give you 6.28. Okay, so when I divide 8 by 6.28, it will give me 1.37. Yeah, 1.37, which is approximately 1.4. Yeah, so 1.27, rather 1.27, not 1.37. It will give me 1.27. So when I approximate, it's going to give me approximately 1.3. So that is what my radius would be, 1.3 inches. Okay, so when I fold my fabric into 4, I'm cutting 1.3 from the edge, not my full waist circumference. I know a lot of people just like to play it out, just cut excess fabric and measure it out on the fabric. By doing this, my dear, you end up wasting so much fabric that you didn't even bargain for. Okay, so I want to show you guys an illustration real quick, and I'm using this piece of paper. I'm just going to shred it into 4 individual parts to show you guys the illustration for this flare that we'll be using. So I have, let's assume this 4 piece of paper on the table. These are my 4 flare panels, just assume. Then do know that I'll be needing extra allowance to join each panel together. Okay, and for those 2 outer panels, I'll be needing extra allowance for the zip as well. So that means I'll be needing, for the ends, I'll be adding 1 inch on the outer ends of the 2 outer panels for zip. Then I'll be adding half an inch on the inner fold or the inner part to attach both panels together like that. Then on the 2 inner panels, I'll be needing half an inch on either side to attach all 4 panels together. That means for the 2 outer panels, I'll be needing 1.5 inch seam allowance, including the seam allowance, and half inch for seam allowance and 1 inch for zipper allowance for the 2 outer panels. Then for the 2 inner panels, I'll be needing 1 inch on each panel. That's basically to attach each panel to the other. I hope that makes sense. I'll be using 1 inch, half inch on either side, half inch on the left side and half inch on the right side. That would give me 1 inch. So the 2 inner panels will need an allowance of 1 inch, while the 2 outer panels will need an allowance of 1.5 inches or 1.5 inches. But first, I'm just going to show you guys the illustration on this paper, on this white paper right here. So I'm just going to assume that this is my fabric, okay, and as we all cut normal flare, we have to fold into 4. Okay, so I'm just going to assume that this paper is folded into 4, and from that end I'm just going to mark 1.3 inches, which is our radius. Remember, our radius is 1.3 inches, so I'm just going to mark 1.3 inches, mark 1.3 inches from one end to the other end, ensuring that it is exactly 1.3 inches, no more, no less, because if it's more or less, the measurement is wrong, it becomes smaller or bigger. So at this point, I've marked 1.3 inches from that end all across. So now I'm just going to measure and check it, just to cross check if it's correct. So I'm just going to put the end of my tape on that edge and measure from the beginning to the end of that curved line, and it gives me 2 inches. So do you remember that if this was a fabric, it would be folded into 4. So when I multiply 2 inches by 4, it is going to give me 8, and that is what we have for my circumference for each panel, 8 inches, according to what we calculated that first time. When I divided my waist circumference by 4, it gave me 8. So now when I multiply 8 by 4, it's 32 inches. So you can see that 1.3 inches is correct and it is accurate. Okay, so you might want to cross check that. So now I'm just going to mark the length that I want. I actually want the length of this flare to be 8.5 inches, but I'm marking 10 inches because I'll need half an inch to stitch the lining to the main fabric and half an inch to actually fold the hem of the flare, so it's not all to fold the hem of the flare, then another half an inch to attach the flare to the upper part of the garment. So that's why I'm adding an extra 1.5 inch. Okay, so now I'm just going to cut this out. And guys, do note that any extension or any allowance that I'll be using to join the panels together is not will not be done on this paper. Okay, to be done on the main fabric, and that is why I don't have any extension done on this paper. You know, for the 2 outer parts we need an extension of 1.5 inch, while for the 2 inner parts we need an extension or an allowance of 1 inch. So that will be done on the main fabric and not on this paper. This paper is basically a main template on which my flare would be cut. To calculate the allowance I'll be leaving for my two outer panels, I'll be dividing 1.5 by 4. Remember, my two outer panels need an allowance of 1.5. So when I divide 1.5 by 4, I'm dividing by 4 because when you want to cut on flare, you have to fold the fabric into 4. Okay, you don't cut on one side, you have to fold the fabric into 4. So when I divide 1.5 by 4, it gives me 0.37, which is approximately 0.4. Okay, and that is the allowance or extension I'll be giving for my outer panels. Okay, so I'll be showing you guys how to do that later on, or how to get, or how to place the pattern, the illustration on the fabric and extend it by 0.4. Okay, then for my two inner panels, remember that my two inner panels need an allowance of 1 inch, that's half inch on either side. Okay, so when I um divide 1 inch by 4, remember we'll be needing half inch on either side to attach all four panels together. Okay, we already know that the two outer panels, we need 0.4. If we are folding the fabric into 4 places, we need 0.4 allowance. Okay, then for the two inner panels, now we'll be dividing 1 inch, which is half inch on the left and half inch on the right on the two inner panels, half inch on the left, half inch on the right, which is 1 inch. Okay, so we'll be dividing 1 inch by 4, and if I divide 1 inch by 4, it will give me 0.25. So 0.25 is the allowance that I'll be putting on each fold for my front, for my two inner panels. Okay, 0.25, and do know that that is because I have folded my fabric into 4. Okay, so now I'm just going to show you guys how to cut it on fabric. Okay, so remember, for the two outer panels, I'll be needing an extension of 0.4. That is to serve as the seam and the zipper allowance for this two outer panels. Okay, that was what we divided. So since the fabric is folded into 4, we'll be dividing 1.5 by 4, and that's how we got 0.4. Okay, so what I like to do is I just place the paper on the fabric like this, the template, then I slightly pull it down on one side, not on both sides, on one side, then I use my ruler to measure 0.4, then I adjust it if necessary till it's on that 0.4 mark. So when I'm sure that the template is on the 0.4 mark, I just start cutting. I basically start cutting from the bottom and not from the top. I feel it's safer to start cutting from the bottom because then you have a sure guide, or a guide on what you're doing, rather than cutting from the top and extending the paper later on. So I'm just going to cut that out, and so when I open up like this, I have two individual flare for my two outer panels, and that is because I folded my fabric into 8. So because I didn't want to go back in and cut one part, then go back in and cut the second part, so I just decided to fold my fabric into 8 and just cut my two outer panels at once. Okay, so I'm just going to slash those panels open so I can actually sew it. Okay, so these are my two outer panels ready. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to use a pen to just make strokes on the wrong side, just to indicate that these panels are my outer panels and I don't get confused as to what is the inner panel or which one is the outer panel. So I'm just making strokes on the wrong side of my two outer panels to help me identify them. Okay, next we'll be cutting out our two inner panels, and basically the same way I did for my first one, I'm doing the same thing, just that now I'm leaving an extension of 0.25 on one side. As you can see, along that top line I have an extension of 0.25 and not 0.4 for my two outer panels. So my inner panels, remember, we had, when we divided 1 inch by 4, it gave us 0.25, and that is what I have cut out on my two inner panels. Okay, so after cutting it, these are all the panels, all the 4 panels laid out, and each panel is folded into 4. Okay, each panel currently is folded into 4. So I basically cut out my lining and my fusible gum stay the same way I cut out my main fabric. I ensured that I left the same allowance for the main fabric on the lining fabric as well, and on the interfacing as well. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm just going to put the fusible gum stay on the main fabric and iron it down. So what I'll be ironing the fusible gum stay before actually joining all the 4 panels together. Okay, so you want to ensure that you are placing the right side of the fusible gum stay. The right side is usually the part that has some kind of shiny crystalline effect on it, and the wrong side is basically matte or plain. So I'll be placing that shiny part right on the wrong side of my main fabric and iron it down till it's nice and flat. And I'll be doing this on all 4 panels, and I'll be doing this on my main fabric only, not on my lining fabric. I'll be doing this on the main fabric only. So after ironing the fusible gum stay on my main fabric, I went ahead to attach all 4 panels together. So you can see where I literally joined all 4 panels together. Okay, so next I'll be turning my flare right sides up, or right sides facing me. So, and I'll be placing my lining right sides on the right sides of my main fabric. I'll be placing the right sides of my lining on the right sides of my main fabric. Do note that I already went ahead to stitch down or join all the panels of my lining the same way I joined all the panels of my main fabric. The only difference is that I did not attach any fusible gum stay to my lining fabric. I only did that for my main fabric. As you can see, that is all the parts, or those are all the parts that were joined together on my lining fabric. Okay, and that is the wrong side. So I'm just going to place my my main fabric and my lining fabric right sides facing. As you can see, I'm just trying to ensure that it is straight and open and even. Okay, so I'm just going to place my lining fabric on the right sides of my main fabric, ensuring that both right sides are facing. Okay, then I just try to align them with my fingers like this. Align, you can actually pin it down if you want to. Then I'll be taking my crinoline and placing it on the edge of the same, basically on the edge, the same way I'm placing the lining on the edge of the main fabric. And when I do this, I'm not actually stretching the crinoline. You don't want to stretch. So what I'm going to do now is to sew from one end to the other, which I have done. Then after sewing the lining and the crinoline, I went ahead to run a straight stitch over the edge of the crinoline just so it lays really flat. I used a white thread because the top part of this fabric is white, even though I'm using a black lining. So that's why I used a white thread. Okay, so this is basically it. I also stitched the sides of the flare, the 2 open sides where the zip would sit. I stitched those parts on the wrong side. Okay, so this is the flare already. I haven't stitched the waist part because I'll be attaching that to the upper part of the garment. So I'm just going to do that and show you guys real soon. It looks really beautiful already. As you can see, this is the zipper allowance. You can see it's folded in, it's not open, it's folded in. So I'm just going to go attach this to my main garment and show you guys. So this is it all done. It looks really, really voluminous, very full, very dramatic, very edgy and simple, and same time really elegant. So let me know what you think about this video. Leave a comment in the comment section so I can know your thoughts. Okay, give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. Give me a thumbs up if you learned something. Give me a thumbs up if you found it helpful, and subscribe if you haven't already. It helps me know that you guys are enjoying my content, and also motivates me to actually do more. So kindly subscribe, help a girl grow. Okay, subscribe to my family, to my YouTube family actually. So guys, see you in my next video. Bye.